You knock down a basement wall, you find a tunnel. That tunnel leads to 18 levels stretching 280 feet down, and that tunnel system housed 20,000 people. A man in Derinkuyu opens a passage in 1963 and discovers an entire city carved under his feet. Who dug this? When did they start? And why does nobody know for sure? We hear about underground bunkers and hidden vaults. But an entire functioning city, 200 people, deep with churches and stables and wine presses and schools, that rewrites the scale. That makes you ask, what else sits below ground waiting? Over 200 underground complexes exist here. Derinkuyu is the deepest, Keimakli the widest. Nevşehir Fortress in 2014 revealed a site that might dwarf them all. 5 million square feet, 113 meters deep. Geophysicists from Nevşehir University ran resistivity scans and seismic tomography across 4 square kilometers. The numbers say this new city beats Derinkuyu by a third. Murat Gulyaz, who directs the Nevşehir Museum, calls it almost certain to change Cappadocia dramatically. They found living spaces, kitchens, wineries, chapels, Bezirhane presses for lamp oil. 300-year-old Ottoman documents listed close to 30 major water tunnels in the region. Hasan Unver, the mayor, says other underground cities in the districts do not even amount to the kitchen of this one. If you value documented ancient engineering and hidden history like this, subscribe. It is the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you are hearing this from. This script is researched and factual using sources from the National Geographic excavation reports published in March 2015 and the Nevşehir University Geophysical Surveys from 2014 as reported in Hurriyet Daily News, December 2014. These are peer-reviewed geological studies and on-site archaeological documentation, not surface-level travel content. Now back to the information. They migrated from the Balkans after the Hittite collapse around 1200 BC. They had iron tools. They carved monumental rock-cut architecture. The logic fits. But some archaeologists point to Hittites who dominated Anatolia from 1600 BC to 1200 BC. Hittite artifacts show up in the tunnels. Not many, but enough. If Hittites started the digging that pushes dates back to 2000 BC or earlier. Historic Mysteries, published December 2020, cites scholars who argue for Hittite origin based on tool marks and layout similarities to known Hittite engineering. Then there is Xenophon, Greek historian. He traveled Cappadocia in 370 BC. He wrote in Anabasis about houses underground with mouths like wells, spacious below, with tunnels for beasts and ladders for humans. That proves underground living by the 5th century BC. But it does not tell who dug first. Ancient Origins reported in their analysis that some researchers tie the oldest sections to the Younger Dryas event 14,500 years ago when climate catastrophe forced populations to seek shelter. No hard evidence supports that, but the tuff shows tool marks that carbon dating cannot pin down. You cannot date carved rock. You can only date organic material found inside. Ceramics and crosses and grindstones found in Derinkuyu date to Middle Byzantine 5th to 10th century. That confirms expansion, not origin. Modern archaeologists admit we do not know. The city exists. Someone carved it long ago. Then they vanished from record. Hittites, Phrygians, Persians, all possible. None confirmed. The rest are blocked. Structural instability is the official reason, but locals whisper about sealed tunnels that go deeper, much deeper. Medium published a piece in February 2025, quoting sources that say sections remain unexplored due to mysteries archaeologists have not unlocked yet. The Turkish government restricts access. Some areas collapsed, some flood, some are simply unknown. Geophysical scans from Nevşehir University suggest corridors plunge to 113 meters in the newly discovered site. That is 371 feet. If accurate, that makes it deeper than any excavated level at Derinkuyu. But scans show voids. They do not show what fills those voids. Are they chambers, storage, escape routes? Until excavation confirms, no one knows. The same applies to Derinkuyu. The 55-meter ventilation shaft goes down 180 feet. It doubles as a well pulling water from aquifers below. But does that shaft mark the bottom? Or does it tap into deeper systems? When renovators opened the wall in 1963, they found 18 levels. They stopped counting there, not because the city stops, because going further risks collapse. Tuff is soft, it carves easy, it crumbles easy. Large support pillars hold the weight, but even those crack over centuries. Archaeologists at Nevşehir admit clearing rubble from tunnels is risky. The soft tuff is prone to collapsing, so the deepest sections stay sealed. What lies at the bottom of Derinkuyu or beneath Nevşehir Fortress remains guesswork, depth unknown. Wikipedia cites 8 to 9 kilometers of tunnel, 5.6 miles. The cities sit 19 kilometers apart on the surface. The tunnel would link them underground. Archaeologists believe residents could travel between cities without surfacing. That creates a subterranean network, not isolated refuges, but a connected system. Here is the problem. The tunnel is blocked. no tourist access. Some reports say it is flooded. Others say structural collapse sealed sections. Özkan Çakır from Çanakkale, 18 March University, told Hurriyet Daily News that tunnels under Nevşehir are wide enough for a car to pass. If true, that scale matches the Derinkuyu-Kemakli link. But no excavation team has cleared the full 9 kilometers. No one has walked it end to end in modern times. Some researchers suggest the tunnel served agricultural transport, not just human movement. Çakır says people engaged in agriculture used tunnels to carry products to the city. One tunnel may pass under Nevşehir and reach a distant water source. That implies planning beyond simple refuge. That implies infrastructure, a supply chain. But without access, the tunnel remains theory backed by local knowledge and partial exploration. Why block it? Safety, flooding, cost, or something else? The blockage itself is a mystery. The engineering of the 55-meter ventilation shaft. Derinkuyu has over 50 ventilation shafts. The main one reaches 55 meters deep, 180 feet. It provides air to all 18 levels. It also serves as a well. Fresh water flows from aquifers at the bottom. Residents on every level could access air and water through this single shaft. The engineering precision is staggering. The shaft had to be dug vertically through tuff, without modern tools, without laser levels, without drill rigs. Any deviation collapses the shaft or blocks airflow. Archaeologists confirm the shaft never collapsed. It still functions today. Air circulates. Water still reaches lower levels. How did builders in the 8th century BC or earlier achieve this? They used iron chisels and hammers. They worked from the top down. They calculated angles. They reinforced walls. They designed the shaft so an enemy could not poison the city through the vent. Multiple smaller shafts branch off, creating distributed airflow that cannot be blocked from one point. Interesting Engineering published an analysis in October 2024, noting the shaft was designed to be isolated from below to protect water supply during sieges. That means builders included defensive engineering into life support systems. They thought 5 moves ahead. The ventilation alone separates Derinkuyu from other ancient structures. Roman aqueducts are impressive. Derinkuyu had vertical water systems functioning 280 feet down. Scientists replicate the airflow in modern simulations. The design works, but replicating it without modern tools? No one has done it. The engineering remains unexplained in practical terms. Each level has its own door. If enemies breach one level, residents seal off the next. Modular defense. The mystery is how they move at all. 1,000 pounds of stone rolling on a hand-carved track. No wheels, no axles, just stone on stone. Yet multiple accounts confirm these doors rolled smoothly. Tourists at Derinkuyu see them today. Some remain in working position. Memory Cherish published a detailed breakdown in September 2024, noting each door weighs hundreds of pounds yet can be moved with simple human force. The grooves must be perfectly level. The stone must be perfectly round. 1 degree off and the door jams. 1 crack and the stone splits. These were carved by hand, no modern precision tools, yet they functioned for over 2,000 years. Some doors show wear patterns. Grooves in the stone from repeated rolling. That proves they were used frequently. The craftsmanship rivals anything produced today. Engineers study the doors, they measure tolerances, they run stress tests. The conclusion is always the same. Yes, it works. No, we do not know how they did it without modern tech. Kemakli 3,500. The math is staggering. 20,000 people means thousands of children, elderly, livestock. Where did waste go? Where did bodies go when someone died? How did they cook without suffocating from smoke? The city had kitchens. Archaeologists found blackened walls and fire pits. But 50 ventilation shafts pulling smoke from 280 feet down, the airflow would need to be constant and powerful. Waste posed another problem. No plumbing system existed. Human waste had to be stored in sealed ceramic jars. The collector reported in September 2024 that bodies of the deceased had to be left to rot because there was no way to carry them topside during sieges. Imagine living in a sealed city with decomposing bodies and overflowing waste jars for weeks, months. Yet populations survived. They did not abandon the city due to disease or suffocation. Church records from the Byzantine era confirm Christians used Derinkuyu during Arab-Byzantine wars from 780 to 1180 AD, 400 years of intermittent occupation. Arab raids did not last months. They lasted days or weeks. But residents had to be ready to seal in at any moment. That means the city had to function long-term, even if most uses were short-term. Food storage explains part of it. The 4th level at Kemakli has massive storage rooms. Grain, oil, wine, enough to last. But sanitation? Ventilation under load? No modern study has replicated conditions with 20,000 people sealed inside. The city worked. How it worked remains unclear. Vaulted ceiling carved from solid tuff. Archaeologists believe it was a religious school. Separate study rooms branch off. The vault is architecturally sophisticated. Barrel vaults distribute weight along the curve. Roman engineers used them in aqueducts. But Roman vaults were built with stone blocks. Derinkuju's vault is carved. Subtractive, not additive. You carve away rock to form the vault. That requires understanding stress points before you remove material. Remove too much and the ceiling collapses. Remove too little and the vault does not form. There are no test runs when you carve into a mountain. You get one attempt. The vault at Derinkuju stands intact. No cracks, no supports added later. It was carved correctly the first time. Architectural historians call it a masterpiece. The mystery is who designed it. Phrygians? Byzantines? Greeks? The craftsmanship suggests formal training in engineering, but no blueprints survive. No records describe how or why this specific room received such elaborate treatment. Some researchers suggest it was a central meeting hall. Others say missionary training center. The presence of study rooms supports the school theory, but that does not explain the vault. Why that specific design? Why that level of effort for one room when others are simple carved chambers? No answer exists. Over 200 confirmed sites according to local records. Some have 36 documented. Archaeology World suggests closer to 200 total. Ancient Origins states the region has 100 square miles of underground villages and tunnel towns. Why so many? If the goal was refuge from invasion, 1 or 2 massive cities make sense. Centralized defense, consolidated resources, but 200 scattered complexes? That implies widespread need, not just one group hiding. Entire populations across a region living partly underground for centuries. The Hittites used them. The Phrygians expanded them. The Persians occupied them. Greeks carved inscriptions. Romans persecuted Christians who hid inside. Byzantines fought Arabs here for 400 years. Seljuk Turks arrived. Ottomans ruled. Each wave used the cities. Each wave expanded them. But why did every single culture that touched Cappadocia feel the need to go underground? Surface cities existed. Göreme, Ürgüp, Nevşehir. These were functioning towns. Yet the underground network grew continuously for over 2,000 years. Some archaeologists suggest climate. Cappadocian winters are brutal. Summers are extreme. Underground temperatures stay constant, 14 degrees Celsius year-round. That makes sense for storage. Wine, grain, oil. But entire cities? With churches and schools and stables? Climate alone does not explain it. Invasion explains some. The Silk Road passed through here. Armies followed. But 200 sites? That scale implies something more. Fear, chronic instability, or knowledge of threats we no longer remember. No one has answered why the density is so extreme. An andesite block with relief texture. Archaeologists identified it as a tool for cold forming copper. The block was not imported. It was part of the andesite layer exposed during excavation. Workers carved around it and used it in place. That implies metallurgy happened underground. Smelting copper requires heat. Heat requires ventilation. Copper melting produces toxic fumes. Yet Kaymakli had a functioning workshop. The third floor houses kitchens, winemaking, oil presses, and storage. Adding a metal workshop means residents were not just surviving, they were manufacturing. Turkey Today reported in July 2025 that this discovery indicates a level of craftsmanship and industry within the hidden city. But why work copper underground? Surface forges are easier. Airflow is better. Safety is higher. Underground smelting is dangerous. One ventilation failure and the fumes kill everyone on that level. Yet they did it anyway. Some suggest secrecy. Copper was valuable. Weapons, tools, jewelry. Keeping production hidden protects trade secrets and resources. But that raises more questions. Who were they hiding from? If the city was a refuge, why risk toxic fumes during occupation? If the city was permanent living space, why not build forges on the surface? The workshop exists. The andesite block proves it. The purpose remains guessed. He recorded an event from 1909. When news of the Adana massacres reached the region, a great part of the population at Axo took refuge in underground chambers for several nights. That was 1909. The city was in use. 54 years later, in 1963, the same city is rediscovered as if lost. How does a population forget an 18-level city beneath their feet? The answer is forced migration. 1923, Greco-Turkish population exchange. The Christian inhabitants of Cappadocia were expelled. They moved to Greece. They took their knowledge with them. The tunnels were abandoned. The Greek name for Derinkuju was Malakopia, meaning soft, referring to the rock. That name left with the Greeks. The tunnels were sealed for safety. Houses were built over entrances. Within 40 years, the memory faded. When the wall came down in 1963, it was treated as new, even though it was ancient. But here's the deeper mystery. The expulsion happened in 1923. The rediscovery happened in 1963. 40 years, one generation. Yet the locals who remained had no record. No stories passed down, no maps, nothing. Urban transformation erased it, that fast, that complete. What else did Cappadocia lose in 1923 that we will never rediscover? Local legends mention deep tunnels leading to hidden chambers, undiscovered relics, even a lost civilization buried beneath. The Turkish government restricts full access. not just for safety, for preservation, for study, or for secrecy. Medium published accounts in February 2025, noting many sections remain sealed either due to structural instability or mysteries archaeologists have yet to unlock. What mysteries? Grave sites? Artifacts that challenge timelines? Evidence of earlier unknown civilizations? The Nevşehir fortress discovery in 2014 revealed artifacts that pushed dates back to 5,000 years. If true, that predates known Hittite presence. That suggests another culture entirely. Archaeologists retrieved over 40 artifacts from the tunnels according to ancient origins. Those artifacts are being studied. Results have not been published. Why the delay? Academic process is slow. Peer review takes time, but over a decade, the speculation grows. Some believe the sealed sections contain evidence that rewrites Anatolian history. Others think it is just collapsed rock and empty chambers. Without access, no one knows. The restrictions themselves create mystery. Every underground city in Cappadocia was abandoned by 1923. Not gradually, all at once. The Greco-Turkish population exchange forced Christians out. They left. The cities emptied. But here's the question. These cities were used for over 2,000 years. Continuously. Hittites, to Phrygians, to Persians, to Greeks, to Romans, to Byzantines, to Ottomans. Every empire that ruled here used the tunnels. Then in 1923 it stops. Completely. Why did the Ottomans never fill them back in? Why did the Turkish government not repurpose them after 1923? The surface was needed for housing. The underground sat empty. It makes no sense strategically. During World War I and II, underground shelters were invaluable. Cappadocia had hundreds, natural bomb shelters carved into mountains, yet they went unused. The official explanation is cultural shift. The population exchange removed the Christians who knew the cities. The Muslim Turkish population that remained had no tradition of underground living. They built new housing above ground. The tunnels were seen as relics, dangerous, unnecessary. But that does not explain the totality of abandonment. Not one city remained in partial use. Not one was converted to storage or military use. They were sealed and forgotten. 40 years later, they are rediscovered by accident. That level of cultural amnesia is almost impossible, unless the trauma of 1923 was so severe that anything tied to the Greek Christians was deliberately erased. Houses, churches, tunnels, language, even the name Malacopia disappeared. During Kuyu replaced it. The new name means deep well, functional, descriptive, forgettable. The underground cities were not just abandoned, they were buried in memory, on purpose. Water systems that reach aquifers 280 feet down. Modular defense with doors on every level. Churches, schools, stables, wineries, copper workshops, all underground, all carved by hand. The timeline stretches from possibly the Hittites in 2000 BC through the Byzantines in the 10th century AD to the Greeks in 1923, 3,000 years or more of continuous use. 200 cities across the region. Millions of tons of rock removed. Where did it go? Nobody knows. No massive spoil heaps exist. No records describe disposal. The rock simply vanishes from the historical record. How they moved 1,000-pound doors smoothly on hand-carved tracks. How 20,000 people survived months sealed inside without plumbing. Why one room has a barrel-vaulted ceiling when others do not. Why every single culture used the cities, but none wrote detailed accounts. Why they were abandoned so completely. Why they were forgotten so fast. They catalog, but the builders left no written records, no blueprints, no names carved in stone, just the work itself, and the work raises more questions than it answers. Geophysical scans show it might be larger than Derinkuyu by a third. Hasan Unver, the mayor, says it will be the largest underground city ever found. It could be the largest in the world. Excavation starts. Tunnels are cleared. Living spaces appear. Kitchens, wineries, chapels, Bazirani linseed presses for lamp oil. Everything Derinkuyu has but bigger. Dating begins. Artifacts are retrieved. Over 40 items according to reports. The age estimate comes back. 5,000 years. That is 3000 BC. That predates the Phrygians. That predates most known settlements in Anatolia. If accurate, that means an unknown civilization carved this city before recorded history. Who were they? No one knows. The artifacts are being studied, the tunnels are being explored, but the process is slow. Tuff collapses. Excavation is dangerous. Sections flood. Access is limited. As of today, the site is not open to tourists. The work continues. The answers are not here yet. Not isolated refuges, but a coordinated system. A subterranean civilization. Clearing the tunnel would answer that, but it stays blocked. Safety is the official reason. Flooding is mentioned. Collapse is a risk. But some archaeologists suggest another reason. What if the tunnel contains evidence that contradicts current theories? What if it is older than expected? What if it connects to other unknown cities? The speculation exists because the data does not. The tunnel remains a gap in knowledge. That level of confidence in engineering implies testing, iteration, failure and redesign. But where are the failed cities? Where are the collapsed tunnels? Where are the mass graves from ventilation accidents? They do not exist, or they have not been found. Either the builders got it right the first time, or the evidence of failure was removed. Neither explanation is satisfying. The copper workshop needs ventilation. The ventilation needs the 55-meter shaft. The shaft needs precise engineering. The engineering needs advanced knowledge. The knowledge needs a source. The source is not documented. The loop closes without answers. That pattern repeats across every question. Who built it connects to when they built it. When they built it connects to how they built it. How they built it connects to why they built it. Why they built it connects to why they abandoned it. Why they abandoned it connects to why it was forgotten. The chain has no starting point. Every link depends on another link that is missing. The knowledge died with the builders. The Greeks who lived in Malacopia from Byzantine times through 1923 knew the cities. They used them. They maintained them. Then they were expelled. The knowledge left. 40 years later, the cities are rediscovered as if new. That loss of knowledge in one generation is the real mystery. How long before people forget they exist? How long before the tunnels are rediscovered by accident? Would future archaeologists understand the subway systems? Would they know why we built down instead of up? Would they figure out the purpose of every room and hallway? Probably not. They would excavate, they would measure, they would catalog, and they would speculate, just like we do with Derinkuyu. The underground cities of Cappadocia are not mysteries because they are impossible. They are mysteries because context is missing. The who and when and why and how are educated guesses based on artifacts and tool marks and architectural styles. But the builders left no record. No inscriptions explain the ventilation shafts. No plaques mark the barrel-vaulted ceiling. No chronicles describe the 9-kilometer tunnel. Just the work, silent, waiting. Each discovery is called the biggest. Each discovery pushes the timeline back. Each discovery adds questions. When will we find the last one? When will we excavate the deepest level? When will we clear the blocked tunnels? Maybe never. The region is geologically unstable. Earthquakes happen, tuff erodes, sections collapse. What exists today might not exist in a century. The window to understand these cities is closing. Ground-penetrating radar scans the region. Drones map surface features. Geophysicists use resistivity and seismic tomography. Archaeologists excavate carefully. Historians cross-reference texts. Linguists study place names. The work is methodical, the progress is slow, and the mysteries remain. 12 of them. 12 gaps where evidence stops and guesswork starts. Who built them, how deep they go, the blocked tunnel, the ventilation engineering, the rolling stone doors, surviving sealed inside, the barrel-vaulted room. Why 200 cities, the underground copper workshop, the 1963 amnesia, the restricted sealed sections, the total abandonment and forgetting. Not small shelters, not simple caves, cities, functioning, sustainable, defendable. And then it stopped, and then it was forgotten, and then it was found again. Silent witnesses to something we do not fully understand. They find churches with peeling frescoes. They find tombs. They find altars. They find storage depots. Each level reveals more. Each level raises questions. Muragulias, who oversees the excavation, says when the city is fully revealed, it will change Cappadocia dramatically. That is not marketing. That is acknowledgement. What we know is incomplete. What we will know might rewrite the history. In the gap between what is carved in stone and what is written in texts, the stone says these cities existed. The texts say almost nothing. Xenophon mentions underground living in 370 BC. That is it. No other ancient source describes the scale. No Roman chronicler writes about the 18 levels. No Byzantine bishop details the ventilation shafts. The work speaks. The records are silent. Not because scientists are incompetent. Not because the evidence does not exist, but because the evidence is incomplete. The builders did not leave explanations. The users did not write manuals. The cities were used, then abandoned, then forgotten. When they were rediscovered, the context was gone. Now we reverse engineer. We measure the shafts and calculate airflow. We study the doors and test the mechanics. We date the artifacts and build timelines. We create theories. We argue. We publish. We wait for the next discovery, and the cycle continues. You can stand in the barrel-vaulted room and wonder why someone carved it that way. The experience is physical. The mystery is intellectual. Both are overwhelming. The discovery was made because locals complained. The crew investigated. They opened a tunnel sealed decades ago for safety. Inside, they found the city, partially underwater, directly beneath the houses experiencing flooding. That is how discoveries happen now. By accident, by necessity, not by plan. The region holds more. How much more? No one knows. How many sealed by earthquakes or erosion? The number could be 300, 500, 1,000. Cappadocia might be more hollow than solid. A honeycomb, a sponge. Cities stacked below cities, tunnels crossing tunnels, networks connecting networks. and we have excavated maybe 10%. And every answer creates 3 new questions, and the clock is ticking. The tuff erodes, the tunnels collapse, the knowledge fades. What we learn now might be all we ever learn, or it might be the beginning. The Nevşehir Fortress City might rewrite everything, or it might confirm what we already suspect. We will not know until excavation finishes, and excavation is slow and dangerous and incomplete. Who built them? How deep they go? The blocked tunnel? The ventilation engineering? The rolling stone doors, surviving sealed inside? The barrel-vaulted room? Why 200 cities? The underground copper workshop? The 1963 amnesia? The restricted sealed sections? The total abandonment? 12 questions. Some will be answered, some might never be. But the cities remain, waiting, 200 and counting. More being discovered. More being excavated. More adding to the pile of evidence that says something incredible happened here. Something we barely understand. Something that lasted thousands of years. Something that was forgotten in one generation. Something that demands answers. Maybe not ever, but the work continues. The tunnels are cleared, the shafts are measured, the doors are studied, the artifacts are dated, and slowly the picture comes together. A picture of ancient engineering that rivals modern efforts. A picture of human ingenuity under pressure. A picture of survival. A picture of civilization choosing to go down when the surface became too dangerous. A picture of something extraordinary hidden beneath ordinary ground. Maybe more, waiting.